Welcome to Real True Facts, the only podcast you need. We're back again this week for your listening pleasure. My name is Sally Brown.
And I am James Osterberg Jr.
Hi, James.
Not that one?
Not that one.
Question mark?
Yeah. Dr. Seymour is actually off on assignment this week, so we'll be spending ample time with our special guest today talking about the double world of doppelgangers.
Yeah, I actually checked in with Dr. Seymour. He told, he mentioned that he couldn't make it. I thought it was interesting that his scientific experiments that kind of, take him out of the cut, always correspond to our episodes. He's actually researching. We did an episode on clones, which is similar to doppelgangers, and that kind of connects to what we're doing this week. And he is continuing his research on cloning this week. And I all I really know is that it's getting a little bit hairy.
It is. His last foray into cloning, he ended up trying to help the bees, and it kind of backfired on him a little bit. So hopefully he's doing a little better this time. But yeah, I mean, doppelgangers are similar to clones, I suppose, visually, but a doppelganger is sort of a non-biologically related look-alike. So it looks like you, but it isn't you. And I believe that doppelganger is a German word. Is that right?
That sounds right to me. I was going to ask you, but yeah. That sounds German. And, I guess I just always associate doppelgangers with kind of magic and witches and more of the ethereal, like you said, versus biological and laboratory means. Yeah,
they do have a paranormal aspect to them. In German, I believe that it translates in English to double walker. And there is this idea of the twin stranger. So it's something out there that looks like you, maybe sounds like you, but it's not you. Sometimes they're harbingers of doom. Sometimes they are considered evil. So maybe we can get to the bottom of that with our guest today.
Yeah, it's funny. It seems like a lot of the things we cover may or may not be harbingers of doom.
Well, it's good to know. It's good to find out.
You're right. You never know whether they are in fact, the devil, or whether they're super friendly. That's what we're here for. And another interesting thing, we like to relate to the media and pop culture when it comes to the topics we discuss. And I feel like doppelgangers are really hot right now when it comes to, celebrities or even films that cover the topic. And, I feel like it's part of the current zeitgeist. Do
you think you have a doppelganger?
I feel like it's almost like, when people ask about life in outer space, right? Like, oh, well, do you believe in life other than Earth? And I'm like, the odds are probably.
Yeah.
So I just have one of those sneaking suspicions that, like out there's probably another one of me, and I don't know if it gets into nature versus nurture, if it's a physical copy, but it acts differently because of the way it was raised or its environment. What about you, Sally? Do you feel like, or I should say, do you know if you have a doppelganger or maybe feel that you do?
I don't know for sure, but, sometimes people tell you or me that, you'll go out somewhere and say, oh, you look exactly like this one person, or you remind me of this one person, or, oh, you know who you look like, and then they'll say a celebrity or something like that.
Yeah, Ryan Gosling.
Yeah,
Ryan Reynolds. Seems like
Margot Robbie.
For me. Yeah.
We get those a lot. And I think that's different. So I don't think I have a doppelganger just because people say I look like celebrities, but they don't say, oh, you look like another version of yourself. Or like, oh, I've already met you before. You live in Indiana. Or I've already met you. I saw you at Target. It's like, oh, you look like Margot Robbie. She's a star of that movie. And, oh, yeah, like, oh, I could see that. Oh, thank you so much. It's like a compliment. But I feel like if someone said that I had a doppelganger, it would almost be like a scary thing, because they say, oh, is there an evil version of me out there, or am I the evil version? And there's a good version out there. You don't know. So maybe I don't, maybe I do. Maybe that's something that we can find out in the same senses as like when we did the cloning episode. It's like, what's the percentage of you being a clone? It's like, well, is there a percentage of us having or being a doppelganger? Do we know? Maybe we can find out.
Yeah, don't let me forget to ask, or you can ask, if there's a way to know if you are a doppelganger. Now, I'm remembering, because, like you said, I think it would be more scary. It wouldn't be like, hey, you look like that celebrity. It would be, hey, Roger. And he's, no, that's not my name.
Yeah, that's
I'm
not
James.
me.
And I'm just remembering this happened when I was probably in middle school, that someone came up to me in a grocery store. And since I was in middle school, I think I must have been there with my mom. And they said, oh, hello. I can't remember who it was, but I remember it was someone who played Little League baseball. And I didn't play Little League. I was more into hockey. And someone said, oh, hey, Chad. I'm like, I'm sorry, that's not me. And they're like, oh, no, it's, and they, and the funny part is when they argue for a little while, like, oh, no, you're, Chad so-and-so. I don't want to use any real names.
Right.
And like, no, I'm sorry. You have me mistaken. And they kind of give you that look like, okay, like you're just putting them off.
Well, and then you think, am I crazy? Am I the crazy one? Do I know this person?
Right.
Did I just forget?
You're right. And since I was young, I, had a really pretty sharp memory. So it was, it was just a lot of indignation. But yeah, you doubt yourself for a second when that other person is so confident and they take that extra step of arguing with. I think if that happened nowadays, I would be even more worried about, maybe my sanity or robots or magic or the government or biology. The list goes on and on. So I think if that happened again today, it would definitely be more of a hit to my confidence if someone argued with me about my identity.
Especially in the age of social media, that you could easily, if you had a name, if someone knew the name of your doppelganger and you Googled it and suddenly you saw a picture of yourself and you saw yourself in photos doing things that you hadn't done or don't remember doing, like, that's scary.
Yeah, that exactly. I feel like that's where Hollywood and the television has caught on. Tapping into that fear of, oh, this is you, but it's someone else. In some of those early movies, and I think it continues today. With the birth of the internet and its continuing proliferation. It's just. Because I date myself, but that supermarket thing, that was before, the internet was really usable. So, it wasn't like someone just looked at a picture of me. And, and again, it was like some Little League, oh, you're a pitcher for the waste management canisters or something.
Right.
No, I would know if that were me. And
you would know.
Right. And they didn't seem to have much to gain either. So maybe I do. And that doppelganger is out there, maybe turned into a professional pitcher and I wouldn't even know it.
Who knows? Well, we'll find out today. We'll talk to our special guest a little later in the show. But first. And now it's time for.
Did you know?
Did you know? Cats can swim up to 20 miles per hour, but act like they hate water so they won't have to.
Did you know the first chair ever made had 5 legs?
Oh. Well, did you know palm trees are completely hollow on the inside? You can drill into them just like a coconut.
Did you know if everyone turned their ceiling fans on at the same time, it would collectively cool the world by exactly 1 degree?
Whoa. Well, did you know? Everyone knows Tiffany & Co. invented the engagement ring. But did you know they also uninvented divorce rings? That's why you've never heard of them.
That was a mouthful.
Yeah.
Did you know a motorcycle is just an insecure bicycle?
I did know that. Our guest today is Dr. Mark Courtney, professor of psychology from Columbia University. Dr. Mark, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Sally, and thank you, James. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, I'm really excited to get into these kind of, as I mentioned before, more ethereal topics because they're really difficult for me to get a handle on. So thanks for being with us, Dr. Mark. And speaking of doctor, what is your PhD in?
In psychology. I've studied psychology, done a lot of work with clinical psychology, with studying the psychological effects of growing up with siblings, growing up as an only child, and of course, growing up as twins. I've worked a lot with twins.
In your studies, what would you say is the most difficult thing growing up either with a twin or with siblings. I'm an only child, so I don't know what that's like. Maybe for all the only children out there, like what is something that's very challenging in that capacity?
Yes, that's a great question, Sally. And may I say, as an only child, thank you for your bravery and strength. What a lot of people don't understand is that only children grow up and they're the only ones that are interacting with the parents. Of course, if you have siblings, if you have and even more so if you have a twin sibling, you have somebody to share that load. So a lot of only children come out of childhood and into their adulthoods with very unique psychological and emotional baggage. No assumptions, of course, Alec. No assumptions, of course.
Yeah.
Now, the hardest thing about being a twin for most people is when you're growing up as a twin, you grow up with a specific bond. And, as we were talking about doppelgangers before the show, something that really struck me was in my research, I found that people who grow up as twins share this bond, but then people who grow up and find someone who is almost identical to them later on, without the bond, it causes a kind of psychological break, or it can. It's extremely stressful.
So I need to clear this for myself so I can maybe get a better handle. So we've done previous episodes on clones. In your kind of professional opinion and definition, what would be the difference between a clone and a doppelganger, or maybe what is a doppelganger?
Very good. Yes. So I think the easiest way to understand it is if you take the analogy of a package of Play-Doh, right? Mm-hmm. If you have two colors of Play-Doh and you mix them together, you get a third color. If you split that third color into two pieces, that's kind of like having a twin or a sibling, right? It's the same material going in, and then the same material coming out as a different expression of those genes. Now, a clone would be if you were somehow able to take that piece of Play-Doh, the third color of Play-Doh, and you are able to expand it so that you had an equal amount of that same color without mixing any of the previous colors together. Now, a doppelganger would be if you had a red Play-Doh and a yellow Play-Doh making an orange Play-Doh, and then you go over to the store shelf and you pick up an orange Play-Doh. So now you have one that is the combination of two parents creating that person. And then you have one that is identical to it that is from another source.
Well, okay. I hope our listeners understood that, because I'm when it comes to explanations, I can be a little dense.
Well, first you would have to know what Play-Doh was.
Right. And I'm assuming it's like it's something you bake with and play games with.
Yeah.
So, but I got, I like colors, and I got the gist. So I'm going to assume that our listeners understood, and it's not their fault for me not quite grasping.
Now, when it comes to the world of doppelgangers, because, talking about twins, that makes a lot of sense. In your studies and where your career has gone professionally, when did you realize that doppelgangers were a major part of your study of psychology?
Well, to be perfectly honest, it was the first time that I saw the movie Single White Female. The idea of somebody trying to become and usurp somebody else's life was fascinating, and so I started to really dig into it, and I found that it's a more common occurrence than a lot of people tend to believe. The doppelganger phenomenon is it can be quite scarring, and it can be quite stressful, as I said before. And usually, what happens is one of the pair, the evil twin, if you will try to either consume, metaphorically, of course, or literally, the other of the pair. in a kind of let's see, Plato didn't play quite well. Kind of like a Highlander situation where
Yeah.
So when two doppelgangers are met with one another, usually one will try to take over the other.
Sure, absorb their power.
There can be only one.
Right. Not unlike The One, the Jet Li.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, you lost me again, but yeah.
I mean, that was an interdimensional thing, but this is, so it's purely science fiction, of course.
Yeah, we're dealing with Highlander magic, yeah.
Right.
So that does beg the question: where do doppelgangers come from? Can they be kind of constructed out of thin air or other dimensions, or is it? Can they come from a lot of different places?
Well, some people believe that doppelgangers are a byproduct of being separated at birth as twins. The old story is, child grows up with parents believing they are an only child, and then at some point in their life they're met with their double self. This happens. This is probably what happens with doppelgangers about a fifth of the time. Now, Sally, as you said before, only child, you probably don't have anything to worry about it.
Yeah,
so
I just get told I look like Margot Robbie. I don't really fear there being a doppelganger of me.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Most people don't have anything to fear. Now, some people think that doppelgangers are just a glitch in the Matrix, as it were. Do you, James? Do you know the Matrix? Is that?
That's it's a kind of an old printer, right?
This is a simulation, right? The world is the theory is that we are all plugged into a simulation, and there's a finite amount of computing power. So at some point, the computer that runs the simulation will have to copy itself. Similarly to if you're playing a video game and you have multiple skins on one character. Right, a Super Smash Brothers type of situation. There's only so much memory that the program can withstand.
So it glitches and it creates a copy.
Right, and to fit into that theory, the madness or the psychological break that comes from being met with your double. Is a way of awakening the mind to the fact of being inside a simulation.
Okay. Because I was very interested in the idea of the concept of the spirit double, that instead of an alien way of looking at it, we're looking at it a supernatural way, because in my study of doppelgangers, my brief study of them prior to coming on here, they go as far back as ancient Egypt. They're in Norse mythology. They have so many different kinds of names over the years. But one thing that is all encompassing is the concept of the alter ego. So it could even be like a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde scenario where you have the same person, but they're experiencing a different side of themselves, or they're split completely if we wanted to go the Matrix route.
Yes, I have heard of some theories. I don't want to call him a rival per se, but there are some in the community who believe that it is a more of a psychological condition and less of a physical one. But I have seen actual photographic evidence of totally unrelated people who bear such a striking resemblance to each other that to have them in the same place at the same time seems nearly impossible.
Wow. And for me, that's what Real True Facts is all about, is that you basically, or you essentially just said that doppelgangers are real, and that helps me and hopefully some of our listeners out there, because as it's becoming more apparent, it's not clear cut. It's not, oh well, this is a doppelganger and this is where they all come from. It's now I'm starting to understand that some of them are from biological parents, same biological parents. Some of them are from glitches. Some of them are from the spirit world, because we know all of these things are real, because we've that's what we've established in some of these past episodes talking to some of our other experts. So it's really interesting to hear this, and now it helps me, because I'm one for simple answers, but certainly that's not always the case.
Now, Dr. Mark, what would cause a doppelganger to show up? I am living my whole life. I am an only child. I don't have any instances of a biological twin. Suddenly something supernatural happens and I have a doppelganger. What would cause something like that?
It could be any number of things. There are some people who theorize that there is some sort of mechanism in a more primitive part of the brain that brings these two together. Something in the amygdala. There are some people who believe that it is a wherever the soul lives, biologically speaking, and in the synapses in our brain, that there's something in the connections that will draw these two people together. Some people who are more spiritual believers will call it fate, and I think that goes back to the belief of doppelgangers being portents of ill comings. Right.
Oh, our famous harbingers of doom. That's right. What we encounter a lot on this show. So, so perhaps that is true, or it seems like it can be. It's one of those. It's not a simple yes or no. They're always the harbinger of doom.
I'm recording. Hey, what are you?
Dr. Mark, are you okay?
I shouldn't have said harbinger of doom.
Harbinger of doom.
I have a bad.
Hello. Yes. Yes.
Oh, Dr. Mark, are you okay?
Yeah. Oh, yes. I'm so sorry.
We heard a thud.
No. That's I dropped my phone. I dropped my phone, and so I apologize for that. I hope it didn't cause too much trouble for the audio.
No, I can always cut that out later.
Yeah, we can.
Perfect. Perfect. Good. Yes.
Like I assumed it was a pet or something.
Yes. Yes, yeah. A pet. Yep.
Okay.
Yes, I have a dog.
So, I was just talking about they're not always necessarily a harbinger of doom. It sounds like, when it comes to a doppelganger, and so they're. I think maybe do doppelgangers maybe get a bad rap?
For sure. Yes. Doppelgangers, they're actually very, they're fine. They're good. When doppelgangers to get together, a lot of them, they find a lot of peace. They're able to discuss the missing parts of their lives that the other can fill in for them. So, this whole idea of harbinger of doom is that the phrasing you used?
Yeah. I mean, this was a theory that we posed only moments ago.
Oh yeah, no. Yes, no. I remember. Totally remember. I brought that up. I'm sorry. Sometimes I'm so forgetful. Yes, no. I was thinking more about it, and really, doppelgangers are nothing to worry about. There have been they get a bad shake in the media, like that movie. What's the one? The girl. She takes out
the talented Miss Ripley.
That is a good one. Yes, that one. Yeah. The other one with the girl. Single white female. That's it. Uh-huh. Of course. You know what? That's a totally fictionalized, sensationalized portrayal of doppelgangers or of the phenomenon, quote unquote phenomenon of doppelgangers. It's really, they should be trusted more than people give them credit.
Trusted?
Yes.
What do you trust? So trusted.
Mm-hmm.
That's
well, I mean, now that we think about it, because sometimes we just have to talk things out, and I know, Dr. Mark, since you are a doctor and from a science community, that sometimes when we start our research, it kind of looks one way, and we kind of ask you where you started and everything. But so that could be a very easy way to go, is just think like, okay, this is not natural. This is a supernatural thing. Maybe this is a biological phenomenon. Maybe we're looking at, is it a harbinger of doom? Who knows? I kind of like the idea that you might have a built-in friend out there somewhere. You might have someone that looks like you, but is not really you. And, maybe they could assist you. It's like that Flintstones episode where Fred had to be two places at once.
Yeah.
Everyone always has that fantasy where it's like, oh, I wish I could just, stay home and then send my double out into the world to go to this meeting or to go to this networking thing that I don't want to go to. So, that's interesting. You bring that up. It's started out one way, but as we know from science, things can easily change.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yes, for sure. Yes, definitely. That's one of the reasons I love psychology and learning and science. You learn new information and you can change your mind. It's encouraged.
So earlier you mentioned that there can be mental breaks and mental stress if one, not always, but if sometimes if one meets their doppelganger, it can cause that sort of thing. Should we not worry about that? Is that what you're saying? Or
Well, I think when I said that before, mental stress, it's a word we psychologists like to throw around. Think of it as professional jargon. What does it really mean, right? Mental stress.
So to us laypersons, it's kind of like an overreaction or something. Like we would take it as much more dangerous than it would really be. Like if someone had a mental break, what's the big harm, or what's the big, what does that actually mean?
Yeah, a break could be as simple as when you forget something in your car, right? And
Sure.
You think, oh no, I'm so upset about leaving that thing in my car. I have to go get it and waste all this time. So mental break. It really doesn't give any indication of severity. It's we should just trust folks. And Sally, I think you bring up a good point. Having a built-in friend somewhere out there, someone who can help you and help take care of things that you deal with. It's a comforting fact, right? Right?
Yeah, I think I would like somebody like that.
Of course.
So I think we should ponder this for a moment, take a quick break, and then come back and talk more about doppelgangers with Dr. Mark Courtney. What do you say?
Yeah, we'll be right back.
We're back on Real True Facts with psychologist Dr. Mark Courtney, talking all about doppelgangers today. Dr. Mark, thanks for coming back after our break.
Of course, yeah. Again, really nice to be here. Thank you, Sally and James, for inviting me today.
Thanks for being here. We as in Real True Facts fashion, it kind of starts one way, and we learn that things aren't as bad as we thought. One thing we were kind of talking about in the beginning of the show was, how could you tell if you were in fact yourself a doppelganger? So like, is there a test that you've ever administered in your profession, or are there, before you get to that phase, are there signs we should look for? especially in the case with Sally, who is a single child. Maybe it sounds like, well, she certainly has nothing to worry about. It sounds like her odds might be slightly higher. Is there anything she should be looking for?
Yeah. I've definitely given surveys, tests, working with my patients, and a lot of them are questioned kind of surveys that you might take when you're, similar to the ones that you might do in high school when you're trying to figure out what you want to do professionally, right?
Like an aptitude test.
Yes, aptitude. Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
Career placement. Okay.
Right. So it goes through all manner of different topics about your personality and your personality traits. Of course, then it does ask if there are any strange occurrences that you tend to experience. I believe someone was talking about an incident in a grocery store. Was it? Did I hear?
Yes, I mentioned that earlier.
Yes,
in a grocery store.
Yeah. So if things like that happen to you often, that could be a sign that you have a doppelganger out there. But again, nothing to worry about. They are usually quite beneficial. As I said, they can help. They can help you understand your life had different circumstances occurred, right? That's usually the main benefit that I've seen in my studies of people who have experienced a doppelganger I don't want to say confrontation. That's such a word that
Very aggressive.
Right. Of course, a doppelganger incident, right?
So I'd like to switch gears a little bit here because a lot of times on the show we'll talk about the media and pop culture, Hollywood. We've mentioned movies, Single White Female, Highlander, Talented Mr. Ripley. So and a lot of these movies and TV shows, we see a lot of the same tropes being played out. If we're looking at a doppelganger or an evil twin, but like you said, maybe they're not evil. Which ones, other than the ones you mentioned, get it right? Like, is it bad to continue to see evil twins with eye patches and goatees? Is that ignorant? Is that rooted in truth somewhere? Where did the eye patch and the goatee come from?
Great question, Sally. So, there is a long history of, concern over a double self, someone who looks enough like you that they could enact, their will and have it affect your own life. I think it's a fear that is rooted in some very early memories and early, early psychological developments that we face in childhood when we are beginning to understand the separation that we have from our parents, right? As we become individuals, we begin to wonder, wow, how individual am I, right? And so the tropes of having the eye patch and goatee, the scar over one eye, or the one character who wears a red shirt, the other character wears, a blue shirt. These types of depictions are, some are rooted in historical fact. In one case study, I believe there was a journal found in a maritime officer's chest at one point, and it spoke about how he met a man who bore an uncanny resemblance to him. Of course, being sailors, very dangerous work. The naval officer only had one eye, so his double actually was the non-eye patch twin.
Right.
So he would have started as the original looking one.
Well, yeah, I mean, he was original to himself, of course, and that's the tricky part of it all. Is if I'm me, and I am, of course, if I'm me and I happen to have a doppelganger out there somewhere, who's to say that they are not seeing me as their doppelganger and the quote unquote evil twin? Does that make sense?
Yes,
Yes.
I think it's something we've encountered on the show before, that really evil is a point of view, is perspective. No one would say, hello, I'm evil. It's always someone else who is evil. So it just depends on which direction you're looking.
Right. It's less about original and extra crispy and more about Code Red and Baja Blast.
So that's chicken and
Mountain Dew.
Right.
Dew.
Yes. So two sides of the same coin. If that coin's not evil, then neither of sides is evil, right?
Yeah, it's like, here I am. Do you want original or extra crispy?
Right.
Which one do you want?
And you would be both. I mean, you and your doppelganger would both be original, right?
Right, to them. But sometimes maybe you want to be extra crispy. But sometimes you want to be original. It doesn't necessarily mean that the other one is the wrong one.
Or even bad, right?
Yeah.
I mean, left sock, right sock, they're both socks.
And someone would argue that you would need both socks.
And that's a great point.
Can't function with just one. I mean, I guess you could function with one sock or no socks, but it is ideal to function with both socks.
Mm-hmm. Great point. Yeah.
I would imagine.
Having two of one thing is often good, right?
So now this is just making me want a doppelganger. See, I didn't want one, and I was scared because of the whole Harbinger of Doom thing. But I'll equate it to our last episode that we have out now about angels and demons. We found out from talking to our celestial economist that there could be a demon out there that cares more about you than an angel. There could be a demon out there that loves you and an angel that doesn't really care too much about you. So I guess it all just comes down to perspective and experience.
And as I said, the Harbinger of Doom, I feel like from a professional standpoint, we should just put that phrase to bed, right? I mean, what is doom anymore, right? I mean, when people were first starting to talk about doppelgangers, there's my double, my crops will fail, right? It's so quick.
One person's doom could be another person's elation or something, that makes perfect sense. It just depends on what direction you're looking.
Right. So again, if you see your doppelganger out there, there's nothing to worry about. You could even go up and introduce yourselves. A lot of doppelgangers, when they first meet, actually they find it comforting to give a hug to someone that is almost identical to them. Really, really embrace, really let your guard down, because if you can't let your guard down with yourself, who can you? Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'd like to talk more about the beginnings of your career, because we kind of had an overview here. In the beginning of your career, had you ever encountered a twin or a doppelganger that wasn't biological? Because a lot of times we start out researching these things, we're going based on off of precedents and things that we have seen before that, maybe case studies, maybe experiments that your contemporaries have done. Can you recall when you first started out how you felt when you first saw a doppelganger? Because obviously they exist. So there had to have been a moment where you saw one the first time. Can you recount that experience for us?
Yes, of course. I was doing some undergraduate work in California, and of course, in more population dense areas, you have a higher chance of running into a doppelganger, right? I mean, if you're living out in the countryside of Arkansas, you have less of a chance of actually meeting just because of population density. So I was in Berkeley, and we were doing a study on adolescence, twin adolescents, and actually it was a parent, two parents of two of different families that we were studying. The one family came in, we met them, spoke to their children, and then another family came in later in the week, and my cohort and I had a very hard time believing, that this was a different father of a different family. Now, of course, at first we thought, is he the father of multiple families? But no, it was two separate people. And when we actually asked them both to meet, neither of them were siblings. Neither of them had any history of twins in their families. And they bonded over the experience. Both were fathers, both lived in the area. Their children were around the same age, so they had a lot of similar experiences. But of course, being individuals, they had a lot of different experiences that they shared with one another. And so while initially jarring to see, some real good self-actualization and friendship bonding occurred in the. I don't want to say aftermath, because again, that's such a confrontational word, but in after they met.
So it sounds like overall it was a positive experience the first time you encountered doppelgangers.
Yes, very positive. In fact, I don't know where all of the the ire comes from. And in my experience, most doppelganger pairs that meet, whether it's accidental or set up from mutual friends or acquaintances, usually they get along swimmingly well.
Do you have any theories as to why there would be this negative connotation with doppelgangers? This sort of, negative idea of a spirit double, alter ego, harbinger. Like, where does that come from?
Again, I think it comes from a time before real good science was being done. If you lived in an agrarian society that held very strong spiritual beliefs, and you didn't quite understand, you had to come up with an explanation for why there was somebody who looked and sounded exactly like you. The conclusion one could jump to, it's not a stretch to see that the idea would be, oh, that's someone dangerous or scary for some reason. But as I said, the more that in my experience, most of these people have a very positive relationship, and sometimes there are very long lasting friendships that come out of them that last, very close friendships that last, for decades even.
I'm not a psychologist, but I'll take a stab at this. When you're a kid or even when you're an old person, people say, well, you're special, and that makes you feel good. Or, he's, oh, this is my special little boy. Imagine if someone told you, oh, well, you're just one of many, right? You would immediately have this sense of dislike and hatred for the others, right? It's almost like this inherent human nature sort of things in a lot of cultures. I know if someone said, oh, well, hey, you're great and all, but there are a lot of people that are just as great, you'd immediately feel inferior, even though it's a level playing field. Maybe in other cultures, it's, seen as there's camaraderie or brotherhood or sisterhood or a group mind or hive mind. But, if someone said, hey, you're James, you're just there's just another one of you. I'd immediately want that other one hunted down and eliminated.
Yes, that's definitely that does make sense, especially when you think of popular phrasing like, "Oh, you're one in a million," which sounds great, but of course, that there are 6 billion people on the planet. So if you do the math, there are quite a few people who are
sure, and that's like what I said toward the beginning of the show, where the odds are there's probably someone out there pretty similar to me, or that's just as good at activity X, Y, and Z. That the numbers, the math is just there. That's what the numbers say. Just like when you alluded to more populated areas, more dense areas, you're more likely to encounter a doppelganger. So I think it's this, we're in this kind of denial that we don't want it to be the case. We want to be special, and, making that other person or thing evil, even if they're just trying to live their own life or lives.
Are you sure you never studied psychology, James? Because I have to say that is a very astute observation.
A very special and unique point of view.
Yes.
That no one else has.
Right. That's what I want to hear. But unfortunately, it's not the truth.
I think it's important to feel special and know that you're one in a million. You're one of a kind. But at the same time, too, I can see how that would get very lonely. Humans are social creatures. We want community. We want family. And, there is a sort of fascination in what would happen if you actually did encounter someone who looked exactly like you. Would there be this competition, or would it be acceptance? And I think, on the show, we deal with that a lot, and we talk a lot about, what we might do if we encountered that. And honestly, I don't know what I would do. I think I'd be kind of excited. James, how would you feel if you encountered a doppelganger?
Oh, wow. Well, my first natural instinct would probably be kind of would be fear and a sense of encroaching fear, and like, oh, well, this person may be better than me, and for no good reason. They could be nicer than I am. And so that's this weird sort of human fear. And it makes me want to put a spin on one of our classic questions, Sally, and put this classic question to Dr. Mark. Mm-hmm. Our classic question: what do you do? Right? How do you defend yourself? What do you do? Right. And but in this case, it might be Dr. Mark. What do you call you, Dr. Mark? Dr. Mark Courtney. Dr. Courtney would probably be more appropriate. But what would you recommend rather than how would you defend yourself? Or if you believe that's the case, well, if you encounter what you think is your doppelganger, what should you do?
That is a great question, James. Again, I tend to push for a more welcoming and open dialogue among doppelganger folk, right? If there's anything that I've learned, a lot of the animosity that comes from meeting someone who seems identical to you for some reason or another, that it's unfounded. And James, I understand how you would feel, possibly threatened by someone who's so similar to you. But again, we're nothing to be afraid of. They are doppelgangers are often totally friendly and helpful and.
So no stop, drop, and roll. You're saying engage in a friendly conversation then?
Yeah. Yes.
Shake hands, get to know them. Nothing to fear.
Right.
No, there's no bad apples in all of them.
Well, you can't say that about all of anything, of course, but by and large, most have been a positive experience when a doppelganger meets their original, if you will.
err on the side of the common good.
Yes. Yeah.
So let's just have a little scenario here because we're winding down a little bit. Say I meet my doppelganger. We meet, shake hands, it's chill. We realize we're exactly the same and it's all good. Now what? Where do we go from here knowing that there are two of us? Do we work together towards the same life? Or do we split completely and maybe check in with each other on Facebook occasionally, but I'm off doing my thing, she's off doing her thing? Where do we go after that?
That is a great question, Sally. It's totally dependent on the pair, right? If you have room in your life, in your heart for another friend, an almost sibling, an almost self, really, then take those efforts, make that time to really get to know each other and see how the two paths have diverged, so to speak, right? The paths that we take through life lead us towards and away people, and as we come together, it's often important to take note of the circumstances that brought you there, right? Sometimes that is enough to forge a friendship. If you both meet at a sporting event, hey, you're both fans of the same team. That's something to be friends about, right? Of course, if your life is spiraling and busy with all kinds of things, and you just want to get away from your own life, and you just need a break from the stresses, and you can't deal with it as much, and hey, there's this other person over here, and their life seems a lot better, and then you can hey, why don't I just jump in there and try a test drive a little bit, right? I mean, if that's the case, then maybe take a little bit more space.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I think that's a philosophical kind of take on things, and it helps because my first thought when that comes to mind is one of those game shows where you choose to either, try and take all the money or split the money. And if you both choose right, you split the money, or if you both choose wrong, nobody gets anything, or you can, trick the other person, almost like a, Mexican standoff. And, that's kind of what I think of. If I met a doppelganger, it would be, okay, well, do I need to get him before he gets me?
I think I would worry about them wanting to kill me and assume my life.
That's exactly what I mean.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be that I want their life. It would be, well, if they do want mine for whatever reason, if they think it's better, I better stop them before they it goes back to that natural fear that is unfounded, even if we're totally hit it off. We're like, oh, this is great. We're so much alike.
Or what if it was me? What if my doppelganger had a cool life and I had a crappy life, and I looked at them and like social media, I saw them on Instagram or something. I was cruising the Real True Facts Instagram at Real True Facts Graham on IG, and I saw them and they were having a cool time and I was not doing anything with my life. What's to stop me from turning into the evil twin and taking over their life? So, there is a philosophical debate with that. And, Dr. Courtney, I'm gonna blame you for this because we've never had a psychologist on the show before. So I feel like my brain is under the microscope a little bit. So I don't know if that's good or bad, but you're definitely doing your job today.
Thank you. Yeah, I think so. I think to just if you meet your doppelganger, yes, learn about them and what they've been going through and how their life is, because you never know when or if you will need an escape route from your own life.
Yeah, I'm starting to get a little jumpy myself. I mean, I want to put it out there to our listeners. Shoot us a note, an email, or a message. What would you do? And ethically speaking, I mean, you think it would be wrong to kill your doppelganger and assume their identity? Like, would that be so wrong?
Right.
Would anyone know?
Would anyone know? Would it be wrong?
Would it be wrong?
Would it? I don't know. But listeners, you can email us at our brand new email address, mail@realtruefactspodcast.com. Answer that question. Would you kill your doppelganger and assume their life?
Or if you're a doppelganger, would you, again, I'm
sorry, what? Oh, no, yes, go ahead. Continue your question.
And I guess are you, if you are a doppelganger, listeners, or anyone out there for that matter, are you in the right? What is right? What is wrong? My brain's really starting to hurt here. We're going to have to should we take a quick break?
Let's take a quick break. Yeah, let's do that.
We're back after our final break here on Real True Facts. This week discussing what turned out to be deep and dark for many of us, doppelgangers. Sally, are you having the same kind of ethical quandary that I am?
Yeah. Is it okay to kill your doppelganger? Is it okay for your doppelganger to kill you?
Right. And what's this? Yeah, because it just brings up those inherent questions like, are you, and is it wrong if you're taking this other life? Is it your own? And I just keep going around in circles. So
yeah. Are you deleting a copy or an original? Who knows?
Right. So, I just want to thank again Dr. Mark Courtney for coming out and really massaging our brains on this, really kind of teasing it out and giving our brains a good workout and our souls and our, ethical bodies.
Yeah.
Of course. Again, thank you so much. It was a pleasure to be here with both of you.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Mark Courtney. Where can we catch you next? Are you going off on a book tour, TED Talks? Where can we find you?
Oh, I was going to lay low for a little bit. I've been very busy lately, and so I've got some projects to attend to around the house. I'm taking a little bit of a break.
Yeah, real do-it-yourselfer. Thank you, Dr. Mark Courtney. Everybody, thank you so much. And we will say goodbye to Dr. Mark and our doppelgangers. Thanks for coming on. Wow, James, crazy show today.
Yeah, I'm still, my brain is still kind of hurting on this one. So I just have to go straight to the plugs and say, you can listen to us on all the major platforms, iTunes, Spotify. And then if you go to realtruefactspodcast.com, it'll take you right to our Podbean to listen. Leave a comment, leave a rating. Let us know your thoughts so we can really give you the best content we can. And we're also on YouTube because a lot of people like to use the YouTube app to listen to audio. It's a real thing.
They do. And I'd like to give a quick shout out to Samantha. She commented on our Instagram the other day that she and her boyfriend love listening to the show. They don't miss an episode. So Samantha, if you're listening, thanks for tuning in. We certainly appreciate it. We've got listeners from all over the world. And we really can't do it without you. So thank you so much for listening. If you want to send us messages, you can do that at our email. Again, that is mail@realtruefactspodcast.com. You can also follow us on Instagram at realtruefactsgram. Send us comments. You can DM us, all that good stuff. Occasionally, we'll post questions to engage our listeners. You're welcome to answer those questions. And if you have any of your own, ask them. If we like it, we'll feature it on the show. And comment, tell your friends, get the word out on the show. The more people that listen to us, the better we can get those real true facts out there for you.
Agreed.
So I think that's it. I think that's all we got today. I'm exhausted, and hopefully my doppelganger doesn't come to kill me later, which might be hard from the bunker, but hopefully so. We will thank Dr. Mark Courtney again. Thank you, James, and thank you to all of our listeners. We'll see you next week. And remember, dear listeners, keep questioning your world, because just because you hear about it or read about it doesn't mean it's true. We'll see you next time.